That is like a story that a lot of people have. That's their life story, especially as parents, where they have to put their life on hold, take care of their children, take care of their family, extended family, make sure everyone else is in a good spot. And then maybe by then, if there's time left, they can take care of themselves.
Sup, my Pample Mies, it's Mike Check Mike.
This is Eugene.
This is Jonathan.
And today is another beautiful day. So let's jump in with the big question where we challenge or take challenging conceptual topics. And the question for today will be, is following your passion bad career advice?
Oh,
It's controversial.
Spicy one.
That's something you're told a lot as a kid. Like, oh, follow your dreams, make your dreams come true, follow your heart.
Yeah, no, was it wise, I guess? Let's discuss. So, yeah, any thoughts that come to mind for that?
Yeah, I'd say there are some advantages to following your dreams, but I feel like it's incomplete advice at the very least, if not outright kind of untrustworthy advice in some ways.
Yeah.
Because if you're genuinely passionate about a certain topic, it makes it easier to improve at that. For example, you have the motivation to study. You're more likely to seek out people and form connections that can like give you either like insight into the field. Like if I'm like really passionate about like, let's say like controls engineering, then I'd like go to conventions and I'd like talk to experts and I'd like go to class and I'd study hard and I'd like learn about all these topics and I'd become like very good at what I'm passionate about. You know, like this happens. I think this is generally true that when you're motivated to do something, you'll do it more. And experience is really valuable when it comes to pursuing a career. So it would help you in all these different areas, but you also have to kind of balance that with like your ability to grow in the field is higher, but maybe your baseline is lower. Like you might struggle with the concepts in a way that other people don't, or it might be a field that no one wants anymore. Like as an example from a previous podcast, you could be so passionate about VHS tapes. That's your everything, right?
Yeah.
You know, and you are the world expert in VHS tapes, right? And it would be difficult to make ends meet still. I feel like maybe you could get some good documentary roles or like maybe even like expert. There might be some systems that run on VHS tapes. I think there was some sort of news about the United States nuclear system still running on floppy disks, you know, in like 2019 or whatever.
Single-handedly saving
like
America.
It actually did run on floppy disks because like it's critical infrastruccer. It's hard to modernize it without taking it offline.
I definitely do feel like there's something to be said about passion giving you drive to go and manifest that passion to something that's actually tangible. I think it definitely is worth deciphering between a passion and something that people just daydream about, something like they just happen in their fantasy, where I think a lot of kids growing up, they're like, oh, I dream of becoming an astronaut, or I dream of I want to explore Antarctica, or like they have dreams like that. And I do wonder if there is a difference between something that's just a dream and something that's a passion. I do feel like when you say the word passion, it feels more primal, something way more force and energy behind that thing. A dream just definitely seems like something that's just off to the distance and not something that, it's like something that you would like to have, but not feel like something you feel like you need to have. Having a passion means there is something that's way more actionable behind what you want to do. To what you're saying, Jonathan.
Absolutely. Like I think that a passion is being all there for like the journey, and having a dream is all about the destination. You know, like, I want to be an astronaut. Yeah. How do you become an astronaut? Are you going to like get a PhD in like geology to become an astronaut? Are you going to like work on aerospace technologies? Is that actually a way to become an astronaut? Yeah. Like, are you going to become a pilot? Like I think that when you have a passion, it's like there's something you can do right now that you can learn about right now that like gives you energy, that makes you, that motivates you and kind of drives you.
A little more directed, perhaps.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It does help foster discipline as well, especially on days where if you just had a dream, your excitement for that dream would probably fizzle out if you have a bad day or something. But like having a passion keeps you just going, because I don't think passion is something that can be easily snuffled out by difficulty or adversity in your life, whether there is something that is directly challenging you towards achieving that passion. Maybe there is a step that you're trying to achieve, but there is something that's just roadblocks along the way. You don't let those roadblocks stop you from achieving your passion just because you have that fire in your heart. You want to go achieve it no matter what the cost is, no matter how hard it is. You really believe in this being something that you want, and you won't let anything else take that away from you.
Yeah. So for sake of conversation, and I do agree with both of y'all that there's that element of grit that comes with passion. But to push back a little bit on that and keep the topic spicy, do y'all think that passion necessarily translates to skill, or is it still possible to not be great at something yet be super passionate about it?
It's totally possible to be terrible at something but still love it.
Yeah, there's
so. Plenty of examples. I could reference my own life when it comes to some of these things too. But like, I'd say you have more potential to grow. But especially like, there's people who are really avid sports fans, you know, but they might not be very athletic, or they might not have like the time they need to train, or might not have the resources to train. You know.
Yeah. That's kind of thing of sports as well, where many people might be passionate, but aren't necessarily pro players, for example, right? In terms of the pure skill level, I mean. And it's, it's a case where you have passion and it's leading you to that drive, but just like sort of that outcome, I guess. Like, for example, like let's say you have the dream of becoming an astronaut, and it's like the passion, well, okay, I'll go be a pilot, but then it's like, well, let's say, you don't have great eyesight, or you're naturally uncoordinated, and then, that's not a venue, like, that could be an outcome too. So should we be asking ourselves more so like, what am I willing to suffer for in a way, right? I guess, and endure.
Yeah, the sacrifice that you're willing to make.
Yeah, rather than a pure passion perspective, with that notion of you're not necessarily going to be great at what you're passionate about.
Yeah, and I think if the goal of your career is just to like be financially stable, then following your passion is not necessarily good advice. I'd say like a more accurate advice would be to play to your strengths and to look for areas where those strengths are needed. Like that's more, I guess, like accurate advice for if your career is about, like being well paid and financially stable, which I think that there's a very strong argument that that's what the purpose of a career is, and that fulfillment in your life can come from other places than like your 9 to 5.
That's true. And I guess there's the possibility of switching throughout your career. I guess you could start with passion, then find security after, or you could argue you're getting a stable career first to maybe secure some finances or some experience, and then switching to passion later. There's kind of an interesting interplay there.
One thing to think about is that follow your passion doesn't have to be career advice. It can just be life advice. Like if I'm really passionate about, like, let's say rock climbing, that doesn't mean I need to become a rock climbing guide. It doesn't mean I need to move up to the mountains and like guide tourists through crazy rock trails. Like that might be an awesome job for me, but it might also mean I should become like, let's say hypothetical alternate Jonathan here, like become like a banker or, someone else or a teacher or whatever. Yeah. And then I come home and I go to the rock climbing gym for like, hours at a time. That would be me following my passion, but it has nothing to do with my career. And if I have a good career, I could spend that money on like rock climbing expeditions or climbing gear, or I could go to unique locations or travel. And I'd be able to follow my passion maybe even more effectively than I could if I was working like a low paying job where I'm like climbing consistently. And I might also lose the passion if I'm doing something too much, or if it becomes stressful for me, because that's what my livelihood depends on now.
Yeah, it raises an interesting question of like what happens when you turn your passion into a job and you end up hating it, right? Because that does happen. Yeah. I'll pick myself like with scuba diving. I love it, but I don't want to teach it or be an instructor because I feel like, I've seen people do it, and for a lot, it kind of killed the passion a little bit, it just becomes a job. And some people love it, right? But, and also known quite a few who don't. And so
I feel like to kind of answer your overall question, follow your passion might be bad career advice, but it's great life advice.
I think it certainly can apply. Another way to look at that too, and bouncing off stuff you all said earlier, is also that, there's a notion of is following your passion just privilege in disguise, essentially? Because can you afford to necessarily follow that passion? Depending on what it is. As a job, you may not be able to, and maybe even as a side hobby, you might not be able to, depending on, some more expensive than others. But even as a job, just because your passion doesn't mean you necessarily have access to the resources to really make it something worthwhile, right? Like if you want to be, say, a pilot, there's an extremely large upfront cost that you may not be able to overcome to get to where you need to do to follow that passion for aviation, for example.
Yeah, I think it certainly is a privilege to be able to follow your passion, either to have the economic means to do so, or just to like live in the right area. Yep. Or, like if you're in the middle of nowhere, like in the middle of the US, and you love scuba diving, then you're going to have a hard time making it to the coast.
It's harder. You can dive in quarries, but to your point, there's maybe the means, the opportunity, like is it available in your area? Do you even have a school that teaches that? And the luxury of time to be able to put into that.
I think because it's a privilege, I think that's why it's important for people who are able to do these hobbies to really kind of like share their passion and to be able to make it more accessible to other people. For example, if you're really passionate about robotics, like volunteering to help with like competitions, or like help mentor people who might not have access to the same resources that you did. I think that's a really great way to both fulfill your own passion, to do something that you enjoy, but to also allow other people to experience that same sort of passion. I think that's a really I think that you can use your privilege for good in that way to like help share your passion with other people and help them kind of find a new passion.
Yeah.
So in my head, I could definitely see a yes and a no to that question if following your passion is privilege in disguise. So in regards to like the no, I think when people think about the question of like passion equals privilege, they're coming from a place where they do feel like they need to take care of themselves first, get into a place where they have a sustainable life, and then they could go out and venture in the passion, assuming the passion takes a lot of investment and risk. But there is that whole thing where, you have starving artists or people that really do sacrifice everything they have for the passion, the thing that really drives them. So at that point, it could even be a question of how hungry are you for your passion? So for some people, they are passionate about rock climbing while we're sticking to this example, but they want to make sure that they could pay their rent and they could take care of their kids or something like that. But you have all these past artists, Van Gogh, and then other people that really just put all their time and energy into art and just really expressing their inner feelings onto the canvas. And there's artists who intentionally put themselves in really difficult situations just so they can get that art and really touch the public. So that's like the no, where I'm not saying that's something that everyone should aspire to be in, but that's just, I think, one end of the spectrum that's worth considering at least. And I could also say the yes, where I'll just share a personal story of mine where my mom growing up, she played the piano and she was really good at it. She played in South Korea and then she immigrated over here when she was like 12 or 13. And her goal, her dream as a teenager was to be a really professional pianist, I think, go around the world and stuff like that. So she was in high school and then she's going on to an audition or something. And I think the audition was to go to Juilliard or something like that. And then so she and her friend, who they're still friends now as adults, they're driving into the parking lot to go to their, I forget whatever place it was, but the place where the audition is being held. They're going into the park and then another car comes and they have a car accident right there. My mom's fingers are broken, so she can't play the piano. So she misses the audition for Juilliard things. So then that's just taken away from her. So, but even then it's like, then she has me and my two younger siblings. And then, as a parent, her focus was taking care of us as a single mom and just raising us and making sure we get to college and everything like that. That is like a story that a lot of people have. That's their life story, especially as parents, where they have to put their life on hold, take care of their children, take care of their family, extended family, make sure everyone else is in a good spot. And then maybe by then, if there's time left, they can take care of themselves. And sometimes people their hands are tied and they can't follow their passion. And so then that's another end of the spectrum where it's like, yes. And I would imagine a lot of those people on that end are really, I can imagine they're spiteful or bitter for the people who can just go out and just go rock climbing in Peru just because they can. And they don't have anyone else to take care of or anyone else that they have to worry about taking care of.
Can lead to some resentment, and that's understandable and how that could come about.
Kind of to circle back to what you said before about pursuing your passion at the expense of or by sacrificing other things. Like people kind of idolize self-sacrifice in some ways. Like, oh, this person is so passionate about their art that they barely eat and they spend all their time working on it. But the reality is that sometimes to follow your passion, you have to choose whether you're going to be sacrificing other people in terms of are you going to be taking care of your aging parents or your children as much as you should be. And I think that's kind of where the privilege really comes in. That in order to pursue your passion ethically, you need to be able to support those around you, but also be able to follow your passion. That's a difficult thing to do, and not everyone gets to have both.
Perhaps makes the equation easier too if you don't have to. If you have a position of privilege, meaning you don't need to sacrifice as much, right? At least maybe in an emotional sense as well. That certainly could be seen that way. So if following your passion is maybe good life advice, but maybe more questionable career advice, should the question be, or should the option be following what you're kind of willing to sacrifice, essentially, like we've discussed recently, or maybe more so following your curiosity?
I think there's value to following your curiosity. I mean, that's how you discover your passions a lot of the time. And curiosity, much like passion, is a driving force. It inspires you to act in certain ways. But I'd say the depth of knowledge that comes from a passion and kind of your ability to get into the specifics, I guess you could say that's motivated by curiosity within a subject you already know. But I think following your curiosity can be a dangerous thing because you might just kind of jump between different things without really building a useful skill set in any, or kind of having a sense of mastery that's really something that's gratifying about things that you're passionate about.
Yeah. I think in the case where you jump around a lot, I could see that sort of happening, where I do agree with, I guess, the other part of like following whatever you are maybe skilled at, letting that dictate, perhaps the field you get into, where as you gain even more mastery, you can derive passion from that, from, building your skills and getting good at something and sort of taking pride in that as well, following your natural abilities.
Yeah, and another thing when it comes to career is that both passion and curiosity are a little bit fickle sometimes. Whereas like what you're skilled at, you'll probably stay skilled at it, barring some major life change or like potential injury.
Unless it's VHS players. Darn. No, but the skill you built for that too is probably transferable to other things, of course. Yeah. All right, on that note, let's jump into our second segment, Thanks Mom, where we'll ask Mom, aka ChatGPT, to give us 2 words to ideate around to come up with some fun and crazy business ideas.
Let's see what Mom has to give. Y'all feeling ready for this brainstorming?
Never, but hey, we've learned to cope with it.
We should really come up with some good luck ritual to have Mom give us something. Maybe we have a dance or something.
I think Eugene volunteers for the dance.
Viral TikTok dance.
Just like a dance to the sun gods.
Could be
good
us.
harvest, please. Mom, please give us a good prompt.
That could be our next Instagram reel.
Let's see if it pays off for Eugene.
Commenters, please rate my dances. Alrighty, here we go.
Will this dance bring good luck?
Oh.
And in light of my son dance, today's topic, or Mom gave us, is solar marbles.
Solar marbles.
Sold. Solar marbles. You mean planets?
First thing that comes to my mind are Dyson spheres. But again, that's something that's like 5,000 years from now or something. But what can you do with solar power? Maybe
you said solar marbles.
Solar marbles.
Solar marbles.
It's like the little spheres that roll around.
Can you
that
have
makes me think of like the plastic balls that they put into reservoirs to prevent evaporation.
Yeah, that's I was kind of thinking of that, or the salt towers where you have a solar concentrator just melt molten salt essentially, and then you harvest that energy, as it cools down. It's just a lot of fancy marbles collecting that heat. Maybe.
Yeah, and there's some advantages to having like a marbles. Like they flow very easily over a surface. So like if you need to like coat a surface with some sort of like thermal layer to like change just like how it reacts to the sun. For example, like if you want to keep a building cool, maybe you could just dump a bunch of super reflective marbles on the roof.
They rotate with a different coating on the other side or something.
Or they're just uniformly coated, but they spread out, and then like the solar energy that would normally be going like onto the roof is now being reflected away.
Yeah. No, I was thinking of like the marble as having like some kind of gradient coating, because to have like, let's say, otherwise maybe you could have like a single coat of white paint or something, but if you had the ability to rotate that marble, such as a different index as you go, maybe you can localize which area reflects more, or even switch from reflection to heat absorption in the winter, and then in the summer, cool.
The advantage of a marble-based approach might be that it's very quick to deploy, but also you can potentially clean it up. Just like open up the storm gutter and let them flow back into the bucket.
Let the marbles go back. Yeah.
First thing that came to my mind while you guys were talking as well was like hand warmers, where normally hand warmers are just like pouches that you can buy from like Big Five or something. I was thinking maybe solar marbles could literally just be marbles that can somehow heat up on their own. But I think the value to having marbles is that they can roll. So maybe you have a surface, a large platform or something that needs to get heated up, but you don't have like thermal tiles on the platform. Maybe you have these marbles that can heat up, and you just have the marbles roll around on the surface for a while, and then like the heat from the collective amount of heat created by these multiple marbles ends up like warming up the whole pad. Because I know one marble probably wouldn't do much because you don't have one point of contact with the marble on the ground. But if you have multiple just scattered around, reminds me of what are those? There's like really small balls that sometimes people like spill in the factory and ends up like spilling everywhere. Like I don't know,
ball bearings.
Ball bearings, yeah. But like imagine something like that, but with like these solar marbles that ends up like heating up an entire area or something like that. And then tying that back into what you were suggesting earlier, Jonathan, with like the whole drainage something, you can have these marbles like heat up something and then have them just be drained away. Like these platforms or something could just like funnel into something. Easy cleanup, like what you're saying. My brain is still trying to make sense of this idea.
Fill the marbles with thermite and have them be like some sort of structure destroying application for maybe demolition or otherwise, where you have like all these marbles, you roll them out, and then they each like ignite individually, and then they'll like probably burn down into the ground.
It could,
like,
1,000 thermite bombs. Oh dear.
1,000 very small thermite bombs.
can make for a great plumbing tool, maybe, if you have a clog in a pipe. Albeit maybe it shouldn't be too powerful to just burst the pipe itself, but maybe if there's like a clog or something.
They do. It reminds me of those you put like in the blender. They're like they look like a marble, but it's like some lemony kind of liquid in there, and you just put it. You turn on your blender, and it like smells nice and fresh like lemons. But the cleaning version of that, like the Drano version of that, like
or like reacts with stuff in the water to maybe hopefully clear out the blockage.
Now going back to your like ball bearings too, I'm wondering if you can have like a solar or light version of a ball bearing, like maybe for some. I don't know, maybe that's more going in the quantum field of things, but some light-based ball bearing. What you use it for, TBD, but
Well, marbles are also like intellectual expression, so maybe it's something to help enlighten your mind, like.
But solarly.
Well, that's what enlightenment, it's solar.
That's true. Definitely planets come to mind. I wonder if there's like a space angle to this.
It could be like a children's toy where like each marble is a different planet, and you can like roll them around on the ground and play with them.
The solar system shifted around.
It could be the name of a soup.
Solar cereal brand.
That's a good name for cereal, I think.
Solar marbles. I could see it.
Which cereal is the one with the chocolate balls? Was it Cocoa Puffs?
I think it's Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, so maybe you have solar marbles being something like that.
They all look like different planets.
Yeah, exactly. That'd actually be pretty fun. It's like
swirl.
you can mark it as like learn your planets, for like kids. For
Have the
kids
Mars
cereal.
collection. It's all cinnamon.
Each planet has a different flavor.
Yeah.
It also makes me think maybe of like those, like, the Jawbreakers, like the large candy marbles. Could be like one of those styled after a planet.
Yeah, this is definitely low hanging fruit. But if you had like marbles that can like light up like LEDs and just have them like roll down, maybe like a pipe or something, if you're trying to like, if you're like an inspector trying to check if the pipe is clogged or something, rather than having a flashlight shine all the way down. Maybe, I mean, if it's a straight pipe, that could work with a flashlight. But if you have a pipe with lots of curves or something, maybe you can even use these solar marbles if they're bright enough. If they could, I don't know, you can somehow detect where these marbles are based on whatever they're emitting. You can see the path of these marbles and see if the marbles get stuck somewhere in the pipes, especially if it's a very congested and curved pipes system.
You could have like maybe like a 360 camera, and like the marble is a little bit larger and it's hollow, but it can kind of see what's around it, and like the camera is like always stabilized, so it's looking up, and there's like a little cord attached to it that you can communicate with the marble. So you let it down and it just rolls and like unspools this thread, and you can see like what's happening inside the pipe as you're rolling down it. It would be more quick than like the conventional like snake robots, because those also exist for exploring pipes.
Yeah, especially if you have a long pipe or some kind of incline, you can let something roll in. Yeah. That'll be a great decorative element too if you just had marbles that lit up and
You just have to not slip on them.
Like just picture you could put them in like different vases, or I don't know, like a fancy party with like some weird.
I was imagining them just all over the floor, and of course, like you walk in
a pool, just toss a bunch
nice.
too. Like I could see it being kind of fun.
Or if you're just
for a pool, especially.
Yeah.
Or if you're a person with like a Goldenberg machine, if you guys are familiar with those, like those are like the machines with the wacky contraptions for like a marble and stuff to move through. If you, I don't know, if you want to put something that lights up there that's rolling down, maybe that might be cool. Maybe it will be great for science, physics demonstrations or something, because you can see a marble moving. You don't have to worry about the marble itself, but you can see that like a path of light that's like that the marble itself is taking in some sort of experiment that you set up in a lab or something.
I did kind of like your hand warmer idea, though. I could imagine my hands in pockets, like 2 or 3 marbles, and like, just kind of like,
or just your pockets are just filled with warm marbles, and they slide all around your hand. That
would feel super satisfying. It's like, yes.
It does this does remind me of that one toy that was one of those as seen on TV ads. I remember seeing this when I was like 3rd or 4th grade, like this magical reflective ball. I forgot what people called it. You might know this, Jonathan. It's like what's it called? The magic ball or something, but like you can roll the ball around in your hands. It could just like stay on your hand, and you can do some weird tricks.
This sounds really familiar to me.
I remember seeing this ad when I was like 3rd or 4th grade.
I can picture it in my mind where they're like rolling it from one shoulder to the other. They have it in a
and you can have, like,
and you go like, ooh, and it floats over to your other side.
any Gen Zers listening and definitely probably knows what I'm talking about. Like maybe you've
Please
seen this
tell
too,
us what
Michael.
this
But like
is.
there's like
And you can like spin it on one finger more easily. It's some sort of like stabilized ball.
So is that ball for gyro is what comes to mind?
It probably is just a gyro.
probably is. Yeah, I gotta show you the video after we finish recording. But that's like, I wonder if something with that you could revive that kind of product back in, but have it warm up.
And some lights.
If you have a marble that can somehow traverse your entire body, especially in a cold environment that heats you up, that might be cool. I don't know. Maybe there might be some interesting use case that this is
cooler
so
tricks.
wacky.
The more cool your tricks are, the warmer the ball gets. Until it's just blazing hot.
It's unbearably hot.
It like tells you what your streak is.
You're
like,
on
how long you're
fire.
going. Exactly. Yeah.
Literally and metaphorically.
×3 combo. Ball is now 80 degrees Celsius.
That'd be funny. You're just getting severe third-degree burns. Oh, but to be powerful.
Yeah.
Solar marbles. Yeah, this prompt is making me lose my solar marbles.
Speaking
You have that sound effect.
well played.
Is there any value to having a spherical solar panel?
Well, you want your solar panel to be facing like the sun, and the sun's far away enough that all the rays come in essentially parallel to each other, which is why like solar panels are flat.
Yeah, you'd be losing surface area. I
There
mean,
might be an argument for if you somehow had like solar panels that maybe they start like, I'm wondering how you would actually do this, but maybe you could like lay down spheres somewhere and then like either they like melt down so that they like form like a unified surface once they melt, and then like somehow that acts as a photovoltaic cell, because you'd need to figure out like, of course, photovoltaic cells have like very distinct layers stacked on top of one another, so all the spheres would have to be aligned the same way and then they have to melt the right way. But maybe there's another material sort of thing you could do where you have these marbles that you lay out and then the sun melts them and they form like some sort of surface.
I'm trying to think of like where the advantage of having it be a sphere in the first part of that would
It
come
would
from.
mostly be in just like being able to lay it out like over flat surfaces. But of course you get a problem where you get, you know, if the surface is uneven, you have spheres stacking on top of each other, so you have like varying thicknesses. But maybe that is sort of the advantage. Like you take what would be uneven terrain and just like with fill in civil engineering, you kind of like fill it up so that it's level and you can build something on top of it.
Yeah, because on the more microscopic level, I could see where sometimes solar panels have essentially these light traps that are built in. So like rather than be like a fully flat junction, they'll essentially have a layer on top that is kind of like a prism. But they can look like hemispheres as well, where you can essentially just trap light in how it's reflected, just to get a little bit of extra efficiency out of the solar cell. So that could be like a glass layer on top of a photovoltaic cell that maybe increases the efficiency.
I really do like the idea, Jonathan, where you have like marbles and they could just be melted by the sun. Because I wonder if there is ever a use case where an application of that would be useful. Maybe you're in a desert.
Like filling cracks in the road, you know, as like a repair.
Wait a
It's like
second.
it would form
You might
like
be
an
onto
even
something.
surface. 'Cause, you know, the
drop
little
them in.
marbles
Like
would
all the
roll down.
potholes, maybe.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just dump marbles in there and then somehow it fills up.
So the main thing you need to think about is when you're doing this, spheres only pack so efficiently,
Yeah.
and when you're melting it, they then move into a configuration where the mass, you know, the volume is completely evenly distributed. So if you're at, you know, some height with spheres, then you melt it, that height's going to decrease.
Right.
Yeah.
So
You
it
have to
would either
compensate.
take
Unless
multiple
it's like a-
passes, or you need some sort of material where like
Like an
it
expanding foam.
expands pretty aggressively to make up for that packing factor.
Yeah, I could maybe see an expanding foam kind of situation, but
Yeah, I mean,
the sidewalk tarmac kind of equivalent too for your quick repairs maybe.
but you have to say like, well, if it melts in the sun, then won't it melt the next time the sun comes out?
Oh,
So it would need to like melt and
cure
then
at the same
set
time.
and then cure, and then it would no longer melt.
Yeah, maybe that's what that ship repair from the previous episode ends up being. It's a bunch of
Maybe.
marbles you toss in there.
I can see that being maybe very useful for like road repairs. Maybe like if you could just dump marbles or something, because I imagine it probably costs a lot just to get the people out there and
Get
get
the
all,
heavy machinery that you need to like melt the tar and then
and you have to
Just
apply it. And then
installing.
it's just, if you could somehow simplify all of that, then maybe a lot more potholes out on the 405 and stuff could be removed or something.
One can dream.
Yeah, the joys of living in
or
LA.
maybe if it's meant to repair potholes, maybe it uses like the weight of oncoming cars to actually like
Pack
first
it.
go from that
Oh.
oval shape, then into like, you know, flat shape, and then as you go over, it just like becomes more solidified. I mean, I'm sure that happens already with lots of types of material. You know, like they do settle over time,
Yeah,
but it could be used that to its advantage, maybe.
yeah, that could be.
Now I wonder if you can have a completely transparent like glass marble, like a prism, but it's a sphere. can you concentrate light with a sphere like that? Is that possible? Does the optics support that?
It acts like a prism for the
You
most.
might be able to, yeah, if it's
I
not,
understand.
I guess not necessarily truly uniform, but maybe the inside has some optical traps.
Yeah, because I wonder if there is a use case to having like big glass spheres just out in the field that can concentrate sunlight into something.
Yeah, because you could have like even a hemisphere concentrate. I'm trying to think of like a fisheye, but like
Yeah,
2x that.
but
I
like-
wonder if you could.
let's say maybe for example you're at a planet like in the outer ring. Maybe you're on
Mhm.
you're on Titan or you're on Pluto where there is not a lot of sunlight.
Mhm.
Maybe you can use prisms or spheres or something like that to concentrate light into like into a solar panel or something.
You do have solar concentrators to help like
Mhm.
reach, maybe higher temps or a higher density, I guess, of photons in a localized area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you have some designs, for example, where people were looking at like a hemisphere, for example, that would be a solar concentrator that would reach temperatures for like a smelting, essentially, on the
Mhm.
moon, for example.
Mhm.
So that could be like an application. You still run into some limits if you're super far away because you get a little bit of extra light, but it's not necessarily that much.
Mm-hmm.
But on a related but not related note, I'm almost wondering if you can have like the marble be like not necessarily a light concentrator, but like if you had some kind of earth or soil inside, maybe some seeds, and then maybe like some kind of substance to help nourish all of that, and
Mm-hmm.
yet let light in, so you can essentially germinate seeds. You can just take a bunch of those, throw them, and help replant and regrow. I'm thinking like post LA fires, for example.
Oh,
like,
that'd be really good.
you could have like just a bunch of these marbles of like different species that you just like
That'd be so
toss, but because they're a little more protected, you offer that sort of germination
That
shelter.
could also help combat, like prevent landslides potentially. Like if the marble contains enough nutrients for the plant to kind of get its roots in initially, even without rain coming in, then when the rain does come, there's more structure.
Yeah.
To prevent like mudslides, because that's a huge problem in burnt areas.
Yeah,
when it starts raining again.
Exactly, it's an important barrier too. Yeah, so that could be like maybe a solar marble kind of thing. It's,
And I do wonder if it actually, the whole act of throwing marbles out like that, like randomly scattering marbles, I wonder if that actually increases biodiversity because you're just randomly dispersing. Assuming you're scattering multiple seeds in like one pile.
Yeah,
If you just scatter them out like that, I wonder.
you get some kind of distribution
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah, just some maybe food for thought for anyone interested in that kind of idea.
Yeah, it could be a super helpful one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Well, I
On
think that's
that note,
good.
I think that was a lot of great ideas we had for
Yeah.
this. Thanks, Mom. Thank you for your dance, Eugene, to help us get a wonderful prompt. If any of our listeners out there would have taken solar marbles in a different direction, if you have your own thoughts on what those might be, we'd love to hear it. Or if you have any comments on following your passion for the big question, we'd also love to hear that. In the meantime, thank y'all and see y'all in the next episode.
Yeah.
See ya.